Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we are going to be reimagining the workplace and the future of work with a nationally known expert on design. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, the pandemic certainly changed the way we look at the office. I mean, what is the office these days? Is it your home? Is it the cube farm that we all know from the 70s? What does office design look like? And especially with social distancing and teams, how do you design an office that's welcoming to millennials and boomers and Gen Z, and also safe, gives people their own space? To talk about that today, Lindsay Wilson. She is the president, executive managing principal of Corgan. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the show because I'm a big design person. You got a tour of our studios, and you know, it has different feels as you go from room to room. You probably can't turn it off. Like when you go into a building for the first time, you're constantly looking around, aren't you?
Absolutely. I can't help myself to look at just the overall feel, though. It would probably surprise people to know that I really don't focus in on all the details, but more how does the space feel, and then trying to figure out what's contributing to either that really good or really bad feeling. And lighting is huge. Anytime a space feels good to you, the lighting has a lot to do with it, whether you realize it or not.
Okay, so the pandemic hits. Obviously, your own company starts to work remotely for at least a time, and so your clients. Yeah. And so did it cause you to start to think differently about the spaces that you're designing going forward?
It did, and it happened so quickly, and it was so dramatic that the conversation spun up really quickly. I mean, our clients were calling us almost immediately saying, what's going to happen next? What do you think? What's the future of the workplace? And I was joking with you earlier, no one has ever wanted to talk about the design of offices more than they have in the past year. We're really having a moment.
This is your season. This is your season. I want to brag on you guys. Let's go ahead and put up a few slides so that you can talk about some projects. Because when we talk about, this is an international firm. They work on some very big projects. So let's talk about Toyota.
You know, this was such a hallmark project for our firm, and partially because, and it's an interesting evolution through the pandemic. Toyota, their relocation to North Texas from California happened pre-pandemic, and they had such a vision, and there's such an employee-focused culture that it was just great fun to design a place where that culture could flourish. What's interesting is how we were able to create a place that continued to adapt for them. So adaptability in workplace design was a trend before the pandemic, and I would tell you the pandemic has only accelerated those conversations. So a natural light, a place that encourages wellness, that can be flexible for their business as it grows and changes, that was in vogue before, and it's still really important now. So that's a headquarters project we're extremely proud of.
Absolutely. Let's go to the next slide. And what are we looking at here?
So Mannington's Customer Experience Center in Atlanta, really the charge we had there was to create a place where people would feel comfortable hanging out. And that was important then, and it's even more important now as we try to encourage people to feel comfortable and excited to come back to our workplaces. They need to feel that it's a place that they feel comfortable, they can bring their whole selves to work and give their best every day. And this project really kind of embodies that trend, if you will.
And one more, everybody knows Veridesk. This is called Vera Space, right? This is their international headquarters?
No, this isn't their headquarters.
Oh, okay.
So the Vera Space, well, actually, Very moved into Veraspace Las Colinas while their new headquarters is being built, which will be Veraspace Capel. But this really highlights what they've done with Veraspace is really look at space as a service. So companies of all sizes, startups, temporary space, anything you need, they have space already fit out, but they really focused on what's so important today is amenities. And we hear it with every project, every client, no matter the size or the industry, employees are looking for a full experience out of their workspace. Lounges, coffee bar, I mean, food and beverage is still the most important thing to people in the workspace.
But even that is changing because now they kind of want self-serve, right? And not like a buffet style necessarily.
Absolutely. I think food service and products like that, we've been excited to see some innovation, and I think we'll continue to. So how can you manage sustainability and individual self-serving all at once? So there's some great products out there in the coffee world and beverage machines where it doesn't always have to be a lot of disposable or unrecyclable products. And so sustainability, wellness, amenities, health, does the space feel good? We're trying to make the workspace do a lot.
And I love her energy. Her eyes light up when she talks about that, which is, I know, is one of the reasons you're so successful.
Yeah. Could you love workplace design anymore? I mean, it's a little weird.
No, I love it. We found a nice overview video. Let's go ahead and roll that clip now.
A diverse group of creatives from every corner of the globe, responsible for gateway destinations on 3 different continents, and some of the biggest data infrastructure in the world. Our designs are visited by millions a day, creating environments where children learn and businesses thrive. Our buildings stand on the front line of the fight against the pandemic. We're researchers and futurists, curious and creative, passionate and dedicated. We are Corgan.
Wow. Okay, so in every career, there's a win, there's a W. For you, when the client gets to see the new space for the first time completed, is that and the twinkle in their eye, or what's the win for you?
It's actually when we get to see their employees in the space.
Wow.
And even more so when we see them using spaces in ways that we thought they would, and it's even better when they use them in ways that we didn't imagine. So you see a team kind of has co-opted a space for a brainstorming session and wheeled in a marker board and furniture that was meant to be reconfigured, and you're like, working. Because, I mean, here's what I believe more than anything else. Spaces are tools. I mean, certainly on display in everything you guys have created to let people produce great content. So spaces are tools. And if you think about the workspace that way, and then you back into when we're working with a client, what are you trying to accomplish? And that often has cultural goals, communicating their values, speed to innovation. You know, it can be a whole gamut of things. Then we can back into design that really works. Making it beautiful is awesome, and we have incredibly talented designers. Making it work is the magical part. I always say it's art and magic, what we do for a living.
And I'm going to brag on Lindsay because she's the person that the media runs to when they need a quote. You were featured recently in D Magazine talking about company culture. Let's talk about that. You know, company culture, I think, has been challenging because of so many people. Let's just talk about anxiety issues. Sometimes you have this rock star employee, and because of anxiety, all of a sudden they're fading. So culture is shifting, and leaders have to be aware of that.
Absolutely. And culture, almost all of our clients feel a sense of loss when it comes to the robustness of their culture or how deeply their culture is penetrating in their organization. And that article talks a lot about the importance of communication. Change management is such an important tool in the toolbox of a workplace transformation. You've got to tell people how to use the space, what behaviors are expected, how the culture and the values all tie together, to just kind of give somebody something and expect a bunch of people are going to know how to use it or why the design was intended to work the way it is. That's just asking a lot. So communication is key and has been throughout the pandemic.
What about colors and textures? I know if you want to reduce anxiety, are there colors and textures and fabrics that you use?
Well, I think what we're seeing is, think about your home and the spaces that you love to spend time in your home. Texture and variety is key. Nobody's house has 10 of the same chair in the living room. Yet we had so many workspaces where you walk into the dining space and there was 150 of the same chairs and it feels like a 1980s school cafeteria.
Right, right.
So that it does take extra time and effort to make sure that the furniture strategy is compatible with the design strategy and the look and feel. We have an entire part of our practice dedicated to furniture strategy and experts in that field, because the furniture is absolutely a critical component to how it all comes together. And that makes you feel more comfortable. Is it a space that wants you to sit and stay a while, or is it a space where we're going to get down to business?
Well, I'm a marketing guy, and so I'm a big fan of the way that you're using videos and podcasting to tell your own story. So we've got a little clip that we're going to roll while we're talking, because you guys have a very successful podcast. Tell us why you started it and how it helps your clients become more familiar with you.
Yeah, so the idea was conceived pre-pandemic, but then really accelerated as we had the time and the need to communicate more broadly to our clients quickly about what was going on, give them some thought leadership, tell them what other clients were doing. And so the Square was born, and it has evolved pretty quickly. And there's two kind of paths. There's curious conversations. Curiosity is a value of Corgan's. We always want to be curious about the world around us. So we just invite really cool, interesting people to talk in that vein of the podcast. And the other side is really, there's a lot of Corgan employees sharing insights on different industries, from healthcare to aviation, the future of travel. So it was a way to really be a leader in our industry of how people are thinking about space.
Well, my compliments to your team, because it's really one of the finest produced podcasts I've ever seen.
Oh, they're going to love that. They're going to love that. It's recorded.
Well done. Well done. I also want to talk about Ed Curtis and Why Texas, because we're both big Why Texas fans. We're going to put on the screen Why Texas. So tell us about Why Texas and why you guys became members and supporters.
Sure. So we are a Texas-founded company, and we're headquartered in Texas, yet we have offices all around the country. I met Ed. Ed and I were actually in the same Leadership Dallas class. So we have a passion for community and connection. And what he's done in Texas, and what Why Texas has done, is really create a fantastic network of companies for knowledge sharing, for thought leadership. We had some fantastic calls just sharing trends and how they impact different companies at different times. So it's an organization we really enjoy being part of.
And we're getting a lot of people relocating from other states now. I mean, especially some of the states that have been locked down. They're seeing Texas as a very wide open society. Are you finding that, let's suppose you have a company coming from California, is there a design that they're looking for that, like a California feel?
Yeah, what's interesting, so obviously Toyota was a significant relocation. Quickly on the heels of Toyota was Kubota, also from California. We've worked with other companies as well. Most of them want to embrace the region and have some attachment to what feels like Texas. A lot of that ends up being in the landscape, in natural stone materials from the area, from Austin. So it's certainly not like cow print and longhorns on the wall. Don't get me wrong. It's much more about a materiality and a little bit of a casualness. We're seeing more financial institutions, investment institutions start to make their way here. They're holding on to a little bit more of their kind of conservative, clean style. But we love having companies come to Texas.
Okay, so we've got about a minute left for the CEO watching this right now, who is scratching his or her head, saying, "I wonder if I need to redesign my office." I mean, do offices need a kind of a refresh every few years?
In this particular hiring market, I would say absolutely. And I would take a walk through your space with fresh eyes and say, is this space communicating what we want it to communicate to potential employees, to current employees? Is it connecting to our business and our mission, or do we have old advertisements up on the wall that aren't saying what we want to say? So sometimes it's as simple as a environmental graphics and branding refresh, which we do with a lot of our clients and have a team who's excellent at that. Sometimes it's we have a conference room that's full of boxes from Iron Mountain and nobody ever uses it. Let's figure out why. Is it a technology upgrade? So the gamut of what you might want to do to make some improvements can be huge, but I would, walk around there as if you were showing up for an interview. And what do you think?
And it makes a difference. I mean, we all remember going into homes when we're home shopping, and you either get a good feeling about a home, it feels like home, or no, we can't move here. Same thing with
And think about when you tour homes, how important the layout and the flow is. I think sometimes that gets discounted in a workspace. Is there a tour path that you're taking potential clients and partners on, or do you kind of have to walk through the not so pretty parts of your office to really show off what you want to? So yes, I think everybody needs to take a look and make sure it's saying what they want to.
Wow. Lindsay, thank you so much. I love your energy and your spirit and your passion for your business. It's obvious.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. We're going to end with the website, which is Corgan.com. Lindsay Wilson, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jeff.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.